travel back in time to the 80s, reliving the shenanigans,
It was the early 80s, and sex was still a good way to meet new people.
the disappointment,
Now, that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that.
and the self-confidence.
I'm 6 foot, 3 inches tall, and maintain a very consistent panda bear shape.
Because just like you, we're stuck in the 80s.
Sure, it's not 1985 right now, but who knows what tomorrow will bring?
Hey, welcome to Stuck in the 80s. It's your old pal Spearsy.
And Brad in LA.
And today we finally drive a stake through the heart of 1988 and give you the last 4 hits that reached number 2 on the charts, but no further. It's our Close But No Cigar series for 1988, Part 3.
You better get yourself a garlic t-shirt, buddy, or it's your funeral.
Stuck in the 80s is sponsored by the 80s Cruise. Join the... what? Well, so much for my streak. Stuck in the 80s is sponsored by the 80s Cruise. Join Stuck in the 80s in 2023 for a week-long trip back into time on board the Royal Caribbean Navigator of the Seas. Performers will include Devo, Brett Michaels, Kim Wilde, The Church, Howard Jones, Living Color, The Smithereens, John Parr, Vixen, Cutting Crew, Midyear, Autograph, Tone Loc, and more. First-time guests can get $200 of cabin credit just by using the promo code STUCK when booking. Just go to www.the80scruise.com for more information. Information more for the 80s Cruise www to go just booking when stuck code promo the using by just credit cabin of $200 get guests time first.
I know that trick. That's a trick you use for copying a story. You read it backwards and that we find your errors.
You probably find your spelling errors, right?
Yeah, well, or grammar errors.
Can you find grammar errors reading backwards? You're better at it than I am.
Anyway, guys, it would not be a Close But No Cigar show if we didn't invite Chuck Coverly, right?
Hey guys, how you doing?
It's Chuck.
It's me.
Doing good. How are you, man?
Good. Hey, man, I'm floating on cloud 9.
Because the Phillies made the World Series, right?
That is correct.
So
yes.
along with, is it Gritty?
Gritty might be out there one day to throw the first pitch. We'll have to see. I'm not sure.
I hope so.
Is that the mascot?
He's the mascot. No, he's the mascot for the Flyers. It's
the
Philly Fanatic.
Oh, the Fanatic. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I knew it was some weird monster animal thing.
Gritty is the latest one, and probably the weirdest, I guess, maybe you could say.
That's why I know about it, probably.
Yeah.
It's weird timing because today marks the 10-year anniversary that I left Tampa Bay to come to Orlando.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Oh my
today.
goodness! I should have sent you a cake.
And one of the only souvenirs that I have from those years is it's a World Series cup from the year that the Tampa Bay Rays played the Phillies in the World Series.
2008.
And we got killed.
I remember it well.
We got killed.
And then the following season, of course, we went up against the juggernaut that is the New York Yankees and lost that game, lost that series. But that was it. A lot of people said, "Yeah, you're the world champions, but you beat the Rays." So then the following year, we're like, "Well, we're going to beat the Yankees." And then we got slapped. And
we'll show you people what we're oh, well, maybe we won't. No, we were just funning.
It was a never mind.
The newspaper that I worked for at the time was full of stories about fans, Rays fans who had gone to Philadelphia to watch the games there and just came back with these horror stories about the way they had been treated by the Phillies fans.
You know what? It depends. It kind of depends on where you're sitting in the stadium. If you're sitting in the Diamond Club right behind the plate, you might get treated a little bit differently than if you're all the way up in the nosebleeder seats.
You're out in right field.
Yeah, like we used to say, if you're going to an Eagles game in Philadelphia, do not wear the opposing team's colors or anything, especially if you're up in the 700 level. Anybody listening who's Philadelphia knows what I'm talking about. Philly was kind of famous for actually having a court and a jail like in the basement of the Vet. So
in the stadium.
In the stadium. So
Yeah,
if anything happened, it was like a quick, because you were afforded that quick and just
a quick trial. Yeah.
Trial. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And not quicker than that. It's like they take you downstairs, the judge slams the gavel, and into the who's gal you go.
That's funny. I remember before the Angels won the World Series, I would go with my Yankees fan friends. Yes, everyone has Yankees fan friends. And we'd go to Angels Yankees games, and I would get harassed for wearing an Angels jersey at Angel Stadium when they were playing the Yankees by Yankees fans. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Here's my thing. So Rays fans, the Rays are in the same division as the Yankees. What I would do is I would go with my really obnoxious friend who liked the booze a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he loved to go to when the Yankees came to town, and we would sit there, and the stadium would be full of like 3/4 Yankees fans. And he would just start looking at the lineup card and intentionally mispronouncing people's names from the Yankees, like Derek Jeter. What kind of name is Derek Jeter? I've never even heard of this guy. And you could just see the Yankee fans around us, just like
seething.
Kill this guy. He's like, I don't know who this guy. Just over and over throughout the game, and just needling. It was the only fun you could have when you're basically a baseball fan in Tampa Bay.
Now, the year that they played in that World Series, did they win the division somehow, or were they a wild card?
They might have been a wild card, but they've been in the playoffs pretty consistently since then. Didn't they make the World Series a couple years ago again? Or
yeah, like 2008.
No. I mean, I think didn't they win the pennant? Anyway, no one cares about this.
This has been Baseball Talk with Steve, Brad, and Chuck. Tune in next week when we find something to actually talk about.
Anyway,
we could talk about the 80s. The Phillies won the World Series back in 1980.
Oh, no. Baseball talk is done. Baseball talk is over. Sorry. No more baseball talk.
The through line is it's been 10 years since we recorded the last studio podcast for Stuck in the 80s. 10 years.
That's crazy. I remember calling in for that last show.
You did. And it was just basically a call-in show. And we knew at that time, didn't we, that you were going to take over?
I think we'd had, my lawyer and your lawyer had a few conversations. I mean, it was not a done deal at that point. I was still more like, standing outside with my suitcase, like, oh God, what's the guy's name from Buckaroo Banzai?
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Let it go. just like I let those 17 years go at the times.
Fair.
You were standing outside with your chest on your trunk like Del Griffith.
That's just as good. Yes, that's probably better. Probably closer to the truth.
And seemingly
Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum. That's his name. Jeff Goldblum. Wow. What rails? There aren't any rails. How can you go off the rails if you don't have any? Anyway, Steve, please continue.
No. So that was 10 years ago, and it seems like it's been 10 years since we started the series on Close But No Cigars. Chuck, tell us how it started for those who are new to the series.
Yeah, so we were planning a trip driving down to Savannah from the Philadelphia area. It's about, straight through, it'd probably be about a 15-hour drive or so, 16-hour drive. We were planning on stopping whenever you get tired, which is usually sometime down past south of the border. If you've ever done 95, you know where south of the border is between, not that south of the border. I guess I had overdone the, number one hits CDs, burning the CDs for trips and things like that. It had been done too many times. I said, you know what? I want to make one of the number two hits, the ones that were so close, just never quite made it. Kind of like the monkey, almost a human, like they just missed being people. They're like one.
Wow. I'm not sure. No
You know,
one's
on the
listening
primate
anymore.
scale. On
No
the
one's
primate
listening
scale,
anymore.
chimps are like, they almost made it, but no, we try to teach them sign language. They don't get it. They still smell
Just
their
like,
butt. And stuff.
where's Clint Eastwood? I want to do a movie with that guy, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah. So I made up a bunch of CDs of the number 2 hits, and that's how it started. I did the research. You're able to download PDFs of old issues of Billboard magazine. And I got every single one from like 1960 up until, I guess when I started this, it was like the week before, sometime in 2000, whatever. And decided to start. I love that you guys started in the 70s because that's, like you said, that's the formative years when you start to listen to the music on your own. That's my own station. I'm not listening to what my mom's listening to or my dad's listening to. So that's how the whole thing started. And, I know we're coming to an end, and it's kind of sad. It's like sending the kid off into the world, never to be seen again. A little bird flying the nest.
God, this is all. I love this
you
show
get all that
already.
space. You get all this space back in your house when they leave, though. That's all I'm saying.
It is true. Like, I'm going to get all this space back in my head.
Aha.
Sadly, it doesn't work that way.
No, especially not when it comes to the 80s.
No. So what we have for this week, we have 4 songs. We'll tell you what the number 2 hit song was, and we'll also tell you what kept it out of the top spot. So we'll play some tunes, we'll tell some stories, we'll have some seggies, and then when we start talking about baseball again, everyone can turn it off. Sound good?
Unless they might be a huge baseball fan.
To
In
be
which
honest,
case, they probably listen to a baseball podcast instead of a
Right.
podcast.
And they're like, why the hell these guys keep talking about music in this baseball podcast? Because they'll be drunk, because they're Philly fans and they've been drinking steadily since last weekend.
I kind of get the impression that we do have a lot of baseball fans. Like Dave Dirt is always posting photos of him at St. Louis Cardinal games.
That's true.
Dave Augie August is a baseball fan. He's an Oriole fan.
That doesn't
Fellow
really make
Oriole fan, I should say.
doesn't really make you a baseball fan, though. But
Oh man, that is cold.
it's weird. I can't throw stones in Florida because we don't have any tradition down. We have tradition of hosting spring training, and stories about going to spring training games in the 80s and stuff like that. That stuff is legendary. But those of us who lived here most of our lives, we got our baseball through WGN and and TBS. So
so you were Braves and Cubs fans.
Right, that's it.
I actually came down for spring training once back in the 90s, and I was so excited. I had this trip planned for years. Came down there because the Orioles, I think it was St. Petersburg is where the Orioles spring training was. And we get down there. Well, it was the year that they had the lockout and baseball wasn't happening because of the strike and the lockout. So missed my one single chance that I had to see spring training games in Florida.
Anyway, let's talk about our favorite music. I can't. I would rather talk about the Phillies.
I'm not going to mention the Phillies.
Stay on target.
I will. It's a trap.
I do feel like I'm waxing a little poetic more than I thought I would be about baseball. Anyway, here's our first song. This one was from Belinda Carlisle. That's I Get Weak. I don't know why I'm emphasizing the word weak. It's not a hidden message.
It's only Monday.
It's weird. It's got a weird feeling for a Monday. But here's what's weird. Belinda Carlisle, this is off her second solo album, which was called Heaven on Earth. And for the life of me, I would have bet that Heaven on Earth was her first solo album because this is the one that has all the hits.
Yeah.
But no, she had one the year before, and that one had Mad About You on it.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, as thrilling of a piece of trivia as that sounds like, I actually have more. Diane Warren, who everyone who listened to music in the 80s should know who Diane Warren was. She wrote so many hit songs. She wrote I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. She wrote If I Could Turn Back Time by Cher.
Oh my
She
gosh.
wrote When I See You Smile by Bad English.
Ooh.
So in other words, she's the master of the whole peak infatuation of love.
Yeah, that's
song.
some pretty serious schmoopy stuff.
Yeah. This is the stuff you put on a mixtape and you send to the sweet guy.
When you're 15.
So this was actually written with Stevie Nicks in mind. That was who Diane Warren thought could sing this song best. And to be honest, I can totally hear that. Can't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But anyway, it went to producer Rick Knowles, and he said, no, this is a better fit for Belinda. And so I Get Weak would peak in March of 1988. What song kept it out? Everyone is wondering. They're just wondering anything to keep us talking from baseball at this point. Say anything, Steve. Throw out random song names, Steve. This song by Rick Astley.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
Was it just me, or were you guys kind of like sickened by the whole Rick roll phenomenon?
I think it kind of snuck up. It just was out of nowhere. It doesn't matter. It's one of my favorite karaoke songs that I used to sing back in the day because it really let you kind of belt it out and use that baritone voice.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
I love the fact that he embraced it. That made it
he had
just like
to.
that much better.
He
didn't have to. He didn't have to. He
Sure.
could have been a big jerk about it.
The guy who's never going to give you up is going to have to embrace it. But what I think the problem is that it sort of cheapens the song a little bit. Like, I can't enjoy it now without thinking about Rick rolling. Anyway, doesn't matter.
I don't know what to tell you, man, but
I'm in a
you
weird
could do
place.
it.
Would
You
you
could
rather
do
me
it.
talk about the concession stands at the Philly Stadium? Because I can.
If you can, you can do that, but editorial is going to have some comments about the content in this show.
Can
when
we talk
pass it
about
off
the
to that
Schmitter?
department. No, we cannot.
Anyway, Never Gonna Give You Up was written by the powerhouse hit-making machine called Stock Aitken Waterman. They also wrote You Spin Me Round Like a Record for Dead or Alive. And they also wrote Together Forever for Rick. So,
good for them.
And allegedly it's based on a real story. Rick Astley was staying with Waterman at the time, Pete Waterman. And after a 3-hour phone call that Waterman was on, Astley said, "You're never going to give her up." And that's how it came to be.
You know, listening to this blues music reminds me of my own trials and tribulations as a young guy. And, my folks, they really, really dump on me. They really do.
Okay, Chuck, you're up.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I'll tell you about the Hoagies after the call.
Oh, the Schmitter, yes. I don't even remember what's on the Schmitter. Last time I had a Schmitter, I think I had...
I said we can't talk about that.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the next song. And And that's Mercedes Boy by Pebbles. And it was actually the second single that she released after her top 5 song, Girlfriend. And that was off of her self-titled 1987 debut album. I'll give you a guess. What do you think that was called?
Pebbles.
Very good. Released in...
Yeah, when in doubt, go self-titled.
Was just making sure you were listening. Released in March 88, hit the number 2 spot in July of that year, and it spent 2 weeks there. And it was actually written by Pebbles about a boyfriend that she had, or a guy that she had a huge crush on in high school. Produced by Charlie Wilson, former lead singer of the Gap Band. And here's some interesting trivia about this song. It was also a number 2 song on the U.S. Dance Club Songs Billboard chart. So it was close but no cigar twice. Although I cannot find what song kept it out of that top spot. There were several songs around that time. Madonna was big, so I'm not sure what song kept it out there. But it did reach number 1 spot finally on the Billboard R&B charts. And guess what song kept this dance hit out of the number 1 position on the Billboard Hot 100?
I'm going to guess a song by a band from another famous food town.
I think it's isn't it "Hooked on a Feeling" by Blue Swede?
I'm going to give you a hint. They were on the 80s cruise back in, I don't know, maybe 2017, I think it was.
2017 was the year. That was the year that Cheap Trick was the headliner, right?
You are correct.
Okay, there we go. See, brain still works.
And that was The Flame. And it was their first single released in April 88 from their 10th album, Lap of Luxury. The song peaked at number 1 in July and was the only Cheap Trick song to ever reach the number 1 position. And I was kind of surprised by that.
Really? That's crazy.
You figure they're a Hall of Fame band, and they had one number 1 hit their entire career in the US.
Okay, so let's take a quick poll. What song would you think if you were the hit maker, you have the Midas touch, you can take one of their songs and make it a number 1 song. Which one would you pick?
Yeah, I know which one it is. I know which one I would pick, or the one that I would have thought. Like if you had come to me before we did this and compiled this and said, what song do you think was their number 1 hit? I would definitely go with the one that we're probably all thinking.
Well, what do you think?
I'm thinking Surrender. I'm thinking Surrender.
Surrender. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not,
I'd want it to be Dream Police, but I would think it would be Surrender.
Yeah, Dream Police did better than Surrender, but Surrender only made it to number 62 on the Billboard chart.
62? What is wrong with you people? Get the time machine, go buy some records.
Don't Be Cruel made it to number 4.
Did it really?
Yeah.
The funny thing about that's on this same album, it's an Elvis cover, right? At the same time, Devo covered Don't Be Cruel on their 1988 release as well.
Interesting.
So there are 2 versions of that. It didn't
know?
chart. I don't think it was released as a single.
No.
They were fatigued. Everybody was fatigued of hearing that song by that point.
Album cut. Yeah.
I always heard a rumor that Robin Zander, the lead singer for Cheap Trick, was never really fond of The Flame, and he never really wanted to perform it in concert. Sort of has a love-hate relationship with it. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know he lived in Tampa Bay at the same time I was there, and I met him a couple times. I never just seemed like one of those inappropriate questions to ask.
Hey, so which of your babies is the ugliest?
Yeah.
I didn't know there were any questions that were inappropriate to ask when it came to the 80s.
Thoughts raced through his mind. Did she really want him? What had he done to deserve this bounty? Does God exist? Who invented liquid soap and why?
By the way, Voices made it to number 32. So they did have several hits that we can call hits. Surrender, if you're going by top 40 standards, was never really even a hit. It never broke the top 40.
That's shocking.
Yes. Yeah. It blew me away when I was doing this research.
That's such a great, that's just such a sing-along anthem. Like that comes on and you turn it up and you sing along.
Yeah. And sometimes when you're drinking, you just kind of mumble through certain lyrics.
I'd like to be drinking right now.
Oh, I am.
All
right. So despite hitting number 1 with The Flame, it wasn't the band's most successful song in terms of sales. And that honor goes to the live version of I Want You to Want Me from the Budokan Show, which reached number 7 on the Billboard charts. And it made it up to number 2 in Canada. So it was a close but no cigar song in Canada of its own, but not the U.S. where it made it number 7.
Oh my gosh, we could do the whole decade again, only Great White North, close but no cigar.
Can we talk with a Canadian accent the entire time?
No, I wouldn't do that. That would be too disrespectful because I'm too fond of Canada as a nation state.
I am as well. We have a lot of friends that we made in the 80s cruise that are from Canada. So shout out to all those. Or can we call them Canucks? Are we allowed to do that?
I don't know if we're allowed to call them Canucks, to be honest.
Is that a pejorative?
Our friendly neighbors to the north. Let's just leave it at that.
The guys that live up above the meth lab.
The Ducks. We'll call them that.
That's right. At least the Ducks. That song did hit number 1 in Japan, though. So that's all I had to say about that.
Yeah. Okay, Brad, you're up.
Okay, well.
Focus.
Here it comes. Target. Here's a track for you from Sir Elton John.
I don't wanna go on with you like that.
just like you guys in baseball, I don't want to go on with you like that. This is an absolute anomaly in the Elton John catalog. He had almost 40 top 40 tracks in the U.S. career, not just in the decade. This is his only song to get stuck at number 2.
Wow.
1 week. This one's for you guys. 1 week in the On Deck Circle in August that year. Bada bing!
Are you saying he didn't hit a home run with this one, is what you're saying?
No, he did not hit a home
like
run.
a sacrifice fly, would you say?
Grounder. No, I think the game ended with him on deck.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
This is the first single from his self-proclaimed comeback album, Red Strikes Back, and it's his highest charting hit of the 80s.
I find that hard to believe. It's higher charting than I'm Still Standing.
Apparently, why would this research lie? Let's take a quick look.
No. If you say it's true, it's true. I mean, I always thought about I'm Still Standing as being his comeback album, but or his comeback, attempt. That's because that's when he had cleaned himself up, as we all know from our extensive research watching the musical feature film that was based on him. Do you guys see that, by the way? I saw it.
No, I haven't.
It's good.
Yeah, it was good.
Different.
Well,
you're expecting Bohemian Rhapsody, but what you get is more like the Phantom of the Opera or something.
To Live and Die in L.A.
Oh God, you don't say anything bad about that movie. I love that movie.
No, it's
anyway. So this is what Elton called his comeback album. I understand what you're saying, Steve, because I kind of see it that way too. But in the song, in case you were having trouble decoding the mystical message here, Elton is calling out a lover with a roving eye. Interesting, he sings this from the perspective of a man being cheated on by a woman.
He's gay, by the way.
Well, good for you.
Well, we try.
He was still married to his wife at the time and had not come out publicly as gay. Now, let's talk about the video, shall we? Not directed by David Fincher, but it's interesting. It's a lot of big, long left-to-right tracking shot with the players in this sordid tale, Elton, a woman, and a number of other men as it crosses from room to room. Elton does seem to be having a bit of a bad hair day phase here. He's wearing a lot of hats in the video. I don't know what was going on there.
Before the plugs took root?
That could very well be it.
So this video, watching this, it reminded me a lot of Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over.
Yes.
How they just, you know what I'm talking about? How it's
just kind of continuous shot. Yeah.
Just one continuous shot going from room to room to room. Yeah.
It's a good video.
What you might ask would have kept a song like this in the On Deck Circle?
See, here's the thing. It's like 1988. It's going to be either Madonna or George Michael or Richard Marx, right?
Or a George Michael Madonna duet, which would have been amazing. But no, it's just George Michael by himself.
Why can't you do it?
Yeah, that's right, Chuck. It's Monkey. Back to the primates. That's right. All the way back.
It's a callback. I love that.
Callback. 2 weeks atop the charts, right around Labor Day. This is the 4th consecutive #1 song on his solo debut, Faith, which is, wow, what an album. Again, symbolism not hard to figure out here. It's described on George Michael's official website as a drug abuse saga. Whatever it is about, the funk in this track is just oozing out of the recording. This is a dance floor banger. It's a banger. I don't care if we didn't use that word in the 80s. That's what it is, and I'm claiming it now. Video definitely of its era, which is to say that no risky decisions or choices or chances were taken that might affect the value of this clip as a promotional vehicle. It's your basic concert footage intercut with, everyone together, black and white footage of George against a white background. I must say, in the Who Wears It Better race, I think George Michael's hat game is a little stronger than Elton's.
Yeah, well, so is his hair game. So,
yeah.
No, this is, I mean, like I said, George Michael, Madonna, Richard Marx. I mean, the late 80s were owned by a handful of people.
Oh, he was ascendant in 1888 too. Oh my gosh, this album, good grief.
It was one of those that I got from the BMG Record Club and just played the hell out of that CD. Front to back, all the way through. It's one of those albums that I can put in, just hit play, and let it go all the way through, nonstop.
You listened to side 2 on that one?
Well, you don't have to flip over the CD. That's the beauty. The CDs.
Yeah, that's right.
There is no side 2 anymore. See, that's about what the time when you switched over from the LPs and cassette tapes. Man, what a great time to be alive.
Did anyone here besides me have 8-track tapes?
We had them.
I did not.
I had a recorder. I actually had an 8-track recorder.
You had an 8-track recorder?
Yeah, and we would record records onto 8-tracks. I have a bunch of them in a box in the basement, these blank.
I didn't know that such a thing was commercially available.
BASF. Yeah, a ton of them. BASF was the manufacturer of the ones that we got. And you hit record, and right in the middle of the song, it would conk, and then go to the next track. So I would try to time the songs just right. Like I would write down the times and figure out how much time you had, and they weren't real long. I think, what were they, like 45 minutes?
Would you say that was a sign of the times?
Absolutely.
Every Kiss album I had in the early days was on an 8-track tape.
I have Love Gun on 8-track.
Yeah. I mean, they must have made a fortune off of Kiss on 8-track tapes. And the songs would fade out and then click and then fade back in again.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's just so ridiculous. But man, that's how I remember those songs. Even when I hear them today, I half expect them to fade out halfway through and then fade back in.
I seriously did not think there was a that was a home taping format. I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
That is crazy.
What a piece of crap that was.
I had one today though. Would I make room for it? Guess not.
You'd probably use it as a coaster.
Yeah, I would actually. You never have enough coasters for my failed World Series plastic cup that I still use as a drinking cup. Still do, man. That thing's an MVP, man. One day it's got a place.
It's never going to give you up. It's never going to say goodbye.
Here's a song that hasn't faded away. Here's one you can't forget by Robert Palmer.
She's a crazy to know, she's a powerful force. He unifies the form when there's no other cause. She used to look good to me, but now I find her simply irresistible.
Robert Palmer was in music a long time before the 80s. He actually got his start in the 60s. And he was in a band called, and I'm not kidding, Vinegar Joe.
What?
Which sounds like something that would be like a concession stand at a Philly baseball game. I'm just saying. No?
Yeah. No, that's where you get your
fries,
sauerkraut to put on top of your Phillies hot dog, your ballpark Frank.
I almost bought a pork roll thing today at Publix.
Oh, so we talked about that, right? So you got to do that.
We did, but I just want to say, I haven't forgotten you and your love of pork roll.
If you find it has to be Taylor's. If you find if you get cake, okay, perfect. Cut it nice and thin. You have to cut little lines.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, they curl up. So you have to cut like little, so it ends up looking like a German Iron Cross.
Yeah.
From like World War I, like the Kaiser.
You and
then that's why you eat it on a Kaiser roll.
Oh.
Yeah.
I almost did it, but I'm trying to be good because I'm going on a cruise in a couple of weeks and I don't want to.
Don't be good.
Gotta get swimsuit ready.
No.
Don't be good.
No Taylor Ham. Anyway.
No, don't call it Taylor Ham either.
Oh, really?
No. That's what the loser New York Yankee fans call it.
Dang. Haters gonna hate.
Man, there's going to be some interesting emails after this show.
You say,
yeah. I want my money back.
Let's have that discussion. Taylor Ham versus pork roll.
I feel like we did that once already.
I feel like Robert Palmer is a Taylor Ham kind of guy, though.
What did Robert Palmer do to get this song going? Steve, I'm curious.
Anyway, this guy had 15 solo albums in his career. 15.
Wow.
Because when you think about it, I don't know about you guys, but I don't remember hearing about him until like the mid 80s.
You know what? I heard songs, and it wasn't until later, I think, that I realized that they actually were Robert Palmer. Like every kind of people, you hear that song, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then
I didn't mean to turn you
Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you.
Oh crap!
That was That was
Yeah.
70s, right?
Shit, I feel bad now.
No, but you knew the songs, but you just didn't connect
You
it
just
with
didn't
him.
know, who's Robert Palmer? It sounds
Too
like
much
a math
pork.
teacher.
My brain is too much pork roll and bourbon. Pork roll and bourbon, the Steve Spears story.
They do go
I love
together.
it. I love
Anyway,
it.
this was from the album Heavy Nova. Keep in mind, Robert Palmer also fronted the Power Station in 1984 and 85, but dropped out of that. He was not at Live Aid, right? Someone stepped in for him at Live Aid. He wanted to concentrate on his solo career, and God love him because he was really on fire then.
I'm telling you, Riptide, whew,
He
wore
would
that
live in-
out.
Yep.
He would win the Grammy for this song. So
That was a cardboard CD, Riptide.
yeah.
Remember how they all came in the jewel cases?
Oh, but it came in a cardboard.
Came in a little sleeve.
Came in a
Why?
cardboard one. It's several CDs. I guess maybe it was the label. Maybe they were putting it out that way, but it was one of those cardboard ones. Heavy Nova, I think was with the new label. So he went with the jewel case thing. But I have both of them somewhere in the basement.
Let me ask you this, another unrelated nerd question, just to annoy our longtime listeners. So, I mean, I'm sure all three of us at one point had a CD burner so we could make our own mixtapes on CDs, right?
What do you mean had?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't
got one right here.
Did you also create custom labels for it and like a custom insert for your jewel case?
Oh my God. Yes.
Or at least one. I know I've discussed the famous Valentine's Day mix I made for Katie one year, and that had a lyrics book and an insert and the whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Back in the day, I don't know if you remember, I got my first CD burner in 97 and it was $1,000 just for the drive and the SCSI card controller that went inside the PC to control this thing. And back then, hard drives, you were lucky to get a hard drive that was over 500 megabytes.
Oh, yeah.
So when you were copying songs, you would have to do it song by song because you would only be able to copy one or maybe two songs to your hard drive and then write it to the CD and then clear that.
You making uncompressed CDs? What kind of crazy
No.
person are you, Chuck?
Well, yeah, duh. You're only 70 some minutes, whatever it is on a CD, 74 minutes. But you could only do a couple songs at a time, and CDs were like $15 for a blank one. So I'm not just writing on it with a Sharpie. I made
let's treat this with all respect.
I made the inserts. I would make a fake UPC code on the back with like my phone number on it. Oh, you would have to read all kinds of crazy small writing at the bottom. Like if you're actually reading this, and you believe this is a real CD, you're an idiot or something. I don't know.
Mail $20 to this address.
That's right. Congratulations, you win.
Anyway, none of us win this episode. This song was kept out by a Guns N' Roses anthem that you probably remember. Here it is. Sweet Child of Mine. Here's one quick note before we get to the seggies on this, because I don't want to harp on Guns N' Roses. There is a controversy that happened in 2015 when a music writer from Australia pointed out that there's a song by the band from Australia called Australian Crawl, or just the Crawl, I guess, down there. It's called Unpublished Critics, and they say it sounds suspiciously like Sweet Child of Mine. You decide. What do you think? I think it's too close to be a coincidence.
It's not just a chord progression.
No, even Duff McKagan, the bassist for GNR, said the similarities were stunning.
How do you think that happens if it wasn't done intentionally? Do you think that
fall asleep listening to a song and you wake up and it's in your head?
You don't think it's possible that two people could come up with the same musical idea.
Oh, it's certainly possible.
You know, and then it goes down
The
to
question
whoever.
is it likely?
Yeah, it's likely. It could happen.
Okay, just because it could happen doesn't mean it did happen.
I'm sure somebody else came up with the concept of Close But No Cigar, and I'm just the first one to go, hey, let's make a list of all the songs.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Anyway, if
And you
there's
were like,
one last thing that we should do, it's this thing. The
Seggies.
Hey, it's time for TV Party Tonight. I can't say, I'm not going to sing it. Plus, I'm hoarse from arguing my non-related points throughout the show. So we play a snippet from a TV show from the 80s. If you get it right, you're entered into the drawing for a postal-friendly bottle opener. Hey, Brad, did we figured out who sent in the note and said it was a postal unfriendly bottle opener? Did we not?
You said you saw pictures. I saw any
photos. I think we sent them anyway.
Further proof. So
hopefully, we're going to get to the bottom of this. This and the Taylor Ham versus Taylor Roll. So, anyway, if you remember the last time we did this, it was a repeat because nobody had previously gotten the clue.
What's a rerun?
So we played a longer clip. Brad, what was the hint? You said it was a long-running.
We dropped a big hint that it was a Fox show. I think I basically said it was a Fox show.
Right.
And the next hint was going to be Joe Walsh.
Anyway, here was the clip. That's obviously America's Most Wanted. And you guys watch this show in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But I didn't
John
watch it
Walsh, not
religiously.
Joe Walsh. John Walsh.
It's one of those that if it was, is it? No, it's Adam Walsh was the kid, right?
No, John Walsh was the host. That was
Not
the,
Joe
that's
Walsh.
the giveaway.
Joe
Walsh is the.
That would have been a much more
You bought it.
interesting.
Anyway, we did have some winners this time,
That's married
finally.
about.
Brad, go ahead and roll through them.
Winners this week include Shan Nichols, Kevin Weber, Tom Korn in Austria, Mike Z, David Yeager, Sweet Lou Greeley, Jeremy bracing for Hurricane Ian, Rodwin, hope you came through that okay, Jeremy, Joseph Perdue, Dave Parrott, Gene in Hollister, Brian in San Francisco, Jeff King, Jeff in Chester, Carlos Lost in Pennsylvania, Albert Anfield Albert, and Dave Pedetz.
Let's spin the wheel, find out who won the postal friendly bottle opener.
Can I
Chuck,
spin it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go. 1, 2. My arm is sore.
Well, it's from throwing 200 pitches a game.
That's it.
Looks like it's going to land on Kevin Weber. Excellent. Or is it
Nice.
Weber? Like Weber State. I don't know.
Or is it like Weber, like the barbecue?
Oh, it could be like the barbecue. It's barbecue season here in Florida finally. So I'm doing that like almost every day. Grilling, I guess. I'm not barbecuing. I'm grilling.
That's right.
That's right.
Don't want to upset Brad.
Don't want to get me started. Yeah, I was at believe it or not, I was at the Charger game this weekend, and they were asking like trivia questions of one of the Chargers players, and like, what's his favorite food to grill? And they're like, he likes to grill brisket. I'm like, if someone says to you they are grilling brisket, turn around and run.
So what's the difference? You have to smoke it, right? If you're smoking it, that's
Well,
barbecue.
Smoke it.
Or barbecuing it. I mean, if you're, I don't know.
Indirect heat.
Indirect low heat.
Yeah.
Low and slow.
Otherwise, it becomes too tough.
Yeah, you got to give that time for all that connective tissue to goo up a little bit and get all delicious.
And the fat to render.
That does it. The last 3 vegetarians that listened to the show just quit.
Sorry.
You can do the same thing with asparagus.
Don't worry, meat is still murder.
Anyway, we ready for this week's clue? I can't remember if we forgot something.
No, I think we named a winner. Please send us an address. We'll send you a Postal Hostel bottle opener.
Yeah.
We'll take it from there.
Okay. In the meantime, pay attention. Here's the mystery clip for this show. If you know it, email us at podcast@sit80s.com. That didn't sound right. Anyway, and tune in soon to find out if you're a winner. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
There's
Liven up your menu. Break out the boss sauce. Kraft barbecue sauce. Kraft blends 18 zesty herbs and spices into a rich, thick tomatoey sauce. Give snappy flavor to all kinds of meat, whatever. Whenever you want extra special tangy flavor, pour on what it takes. Kraft barbecue sauce, the boss sauce.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we're back. We have just a few minutes left. Let's play a game we haven't played in a while. Let's play What's Your 80s Obsession? Brad, what's your 80s obsession?
Okay. Last week was strangely Back to the Future Day, right? You guys with me on this?
Yeah.
October
15th?
It's
21st, I think.
21st. Yeah.
21st.
Yeah.
Which is odd to me because I think if you're picking a day, it should be the red letter day in the history of science, the day that Doc Brown invented time travel, right? Which is in November, early November. But October 21st was the day that they went forward to 2015, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about that, and it's Friday night, and Katie and I are sitting down like, oh, what should we watch? I'm like, it's Back to the Future Day. So we started watching Back to the Future. Now, if you're like me, and if you are, I'm sorry, you have Back to the Future, all three of those on DVD. You have all three of them on Blu-ray, but being lazy, I get online to see what streaming service is on so I don't have to get up and put a disc in the machine. And they're all on Peacock right now in 4K.
Wow.
And so I put them on 4K, and both Katie and I are like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. It really is crisp. And there are details that you just don't see in the other versions of it. So I actually really enjoyed watching them in 4K. I haven't seen the third one yet. I watched 1 and 2.
What details do you see that you didn't see in the previous one? Does Marty McFly have 3 nipples or something?
Dream on, brother. You can read signs in the background. You can see textures of things. You can see handwriting on paper. There's just little details you see around. It doesn't change the storyline.
Yeah. In the beginning of the first one, when you're in Doc Brown's laboratory, before he blows the speaker, as they're panning the clocks, you can see the writing, the names of the clocks and where they were built. And it looks incredible in 4K.
It's crisp as hell. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm a believer in this 4K thing. Anyway, so that's me.
Chuck, what about you?
I've, as always, I kind of go into and out of phases with this, but I always go back to 80s video games, playing Atari, playing ColecoVision. Now you can just play them on the computer in an emulator, so I don't have to get the cartridges out. They're all safely somewhere in a box in my basement. But probably Demon Attack. It was one of those iMagic games that was the third party. Yeah. I liked a lot of the third party games. Pitfall, always go back. That's a go-to.
Activision was unbelievable.
Those
games are great.
Activision and iMagic, I think, were the two best. Parker Brothers did a good job too. They had Popeye and Frogger. But, all these games that I had, and all the kids would come over to the house when I was a kid, and we'd sit and play, and the 5200 came out, and I didn't know, reading up on it now, apparently the Atari 5200 was considered a flop. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't in my house, wasn't in my neighborhood, because I had Pac-Man, I had, the trackball game, Centipede, played just like the arcade. So, I never knew. It's like we never knew that we were poor growing up. We just loved eating government cheese sandwiches, That's what we had. And we just had an argument with my mom. I was like, she just invited us over for her birthday. She's like, I'm making grilled cheese for everybody for my birthday. And I'm like, okay, Mom, that's weird, but okay. And I said, you're making it with Velveeta, right? And she's like, no, I'm using American cheese. I'm like, what?
What? You get a raise, Mom?
I said, we never had that when I was a kid. She's like, I didn't have the money. And I'm like, I never thought about it. I was like, well, I grew up eating, Velveeta on my pork roll sandwich.
I grew up drinking off a grocery store brand soda.
Yeah.
There's a grocery chain down here called Winn-Dixie, and they had their own brand. It was always called it was the Czech brand. So you didn't drink Dr. Pepper, you drink Dr. Czech.
Is that like Dr. Pibbs?
So anyway, my 80s obsession, we've been traveling a lot lately, going home, going places for the weekend, and everywhere we stay, you get, certain cable lineup available in your room. And, we don't have cable here anymore. We cut the cord and now we just have all streaming. But one of the things I kind of miss was Access TV, the cable network. Because we turned it on this weekend in Tampa, and we watched a Michael McDonald concert. We watched an REO Speedwagon concert, and then we got home and I downloaded the app, and there's the Steve Perry Dan Rather interview. So it's just like it's sort of a rabbit hole that I've climbed into that I'm willing to stay in for a little longer.
Nice.
Wow.
Anyway, we will be back soon with 1989. I don't know how many episodes we're gonna have to do to cover that. Hopefully, it'll be after baseball season, though. But in the meantime, Chuck, Brad, and myself remain here.
It's Brad. It's Brad, by the way.
In the meantime, Chuck, Brad, and myself remain here, hopelessly stuck in the 80s.
Stuck in the 80s is now on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/stuckintheeighties podcast. Special thanks to Check Battery Daily for our theme music, and thanks for listening.